Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children 18 plus. You're tuned in to the Loan Officer Podcast with me, JC, and I messed that part. It's difficult when you do it in reverse. Dio, you're here. Congratulations.
I'm here. Congratulations. You did a fantastic job all the way up until the part that you didn't know how to introduce me.
It's like because it's backwards, so it's like looking in the mirror and trying to comb your hair.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Nice haircut, by the way.
You know, I tried just for this because I knew I'd be interviewing you for today's episode. So you sit back, let me drive, and hopefully I don't drive this into the ground.
All right, perfect. Do you cut your own hair?
No, my wife does.
Okay.
Is that evident?
Well, she needs to edge out a little bit better up front.
No, it's going. It just grows like that, man.
Oh, does it?
I mean,
hey, at least you have hair that grows.
Not for much longer.
Yeah, I can't say that.
Not for much longer.
So what's up, John? Thanks for having me on the Loan Officer Podcast.
Yeah, so today we're going to switch things up. We thought for episode 61, which I believe this episode is, we're going to interview you, Dio. You've done such a great job at interviewing others and doing all the talking that we thought it would be a great idea for me, JC, to interview you, Dio, about this experience, about launching your own podcast. We have branded gear here from a fan
that we get to talk about. Gear.
Branded gear. Don't worry, I'll overlay the photos now.
Do we give a shout out now?
I think we should give a shout out.
Because this young lady's store can be found on Etsy.
Okay.
Bracelets by K-Ray.
Bracelets by K-Ray. You'll see the lower third appear right here as I'm pointing to it.
Yeah. Go on Etsy and check out Bracelets by K-Ray. She made these for us. One says to Dio, one says to Coleman.
That's awesome.
Yeah, and I think those are our colors, right?
Yes, it is. Look, she got the branding, everything, the font, the colors. Look at that.
Yeah, I wanted to wear it, but you won't let me take it out of the package.
It's something called dead stock, and it loses its value as soon as you open it. These are one of two. Literally, these are the only two that exist in the world. And once you open the packaging, it just, it's like a sneakerhead thing.
Are you a sneakerhead?
I used to be, but now I'm more fiscally responsible after listening to the Loan Officer Podcast.
Beautiful. All right, so hey, let's do this.
Yeah.
I think this will be fun. I haven't sat in the interviewee chair.
I know.
So I shoot away. Anything's game.
Okay, I've taken some notes here. I've tried to, prepare myself as best as possible. So, Dio, when you hired me, let's say back in January, you had this dream of launching your own podcast. Can you tell the listeners and the folks watching kind of what inspired you to actually launch the Loan Officer Podcast and kind of what gives you inspiration behind it?
Okay. So I never dreamt necessarily about a podcast.
Okay.
Now a long time ago, like in the 3rd or 4th grade, I won a poetry contest where my poem was about being a sports commentator.
Okay.
So I once, when I was 10 years old, thought about being a sports commentator. Then at about age 22, I worked with this gentleman by the name of JT Jones, and JT was an account executive and I was his assistant, and he used to call me the Dream after Dusty Rhodes, the American Dream.
Yeah.
And I used to call him Bominicious.
Okay.
Which is an inside joke because he goes by his initials, JT. And we were going to have like a radio show, and it was Bominicious and the Dream.
Okay.
Then my friend and next door neighbor, Andrew Warner, and I, one night, probably after several cocktails, thought, how cool would it be if we had our own radio show? And at this point, like, it went from you're going to be a sportscaster to you're going to be on terrestrial radio. That was me and JT. To now Andrew and I are living in a world where you have, what's Stern on? Well, what's that radio called? Sirius.
Oh, yeah, Sirius.
Yeah, you had Sirius and
radio,
XM radio. So we were going to have our own XM because our show was called What the Radio.
Nice.
And on What the Radio, you got to talk about whatever the you wanted to, whenever the you wanted to.
4 beeps.
Yeah, there's 4 beeps right there. I just made Coleman's job that much harder. Then you fast forward even some more. And in my career, in my job at Waterstone Mortgage, I do a lot of client interfacing, and I also do a lot of interfacing with sales professionals. And it got to a point to where clients would ask me, hey, do you have like a catalog of videos you could send my way? I would love to watch a video on that. I'm like, no, I don't have a catalog of videos. Or loan officers that were maybe newer to the business and I was coaching them or mentoring them would stop me, slow me down, get their phone out and say, hey, Dio, can I record you? Because you talk really fast, you're not slowing down, and I can't take notes this quick. True story. So then I'm like, okay, this person wants me to catalog clients. These people are recording me. how do we make videos and make those videos available? Oh, well, here we are, 2019, 2020, going to 2021. Podcasting's all the rage. It's what all the cool kids are doing. Let's podcast.
Okay.
So we called it the Loan Officer Podcast because, well, that is who I am at my core as a professional. I'm a loan officer. And then I had this philosophy that, well, everyone needs a loan officer because a loan officer, they get stuff done and they know people, right? If you know a plumber, call your loan officer. I bet they know a plumber. You need an accountant. If you need help with a traffic ticket, I bet a loan officer has a client who's also a cop who could maybe help you out, right?
Correct.
A loan officer can just point you in the right directions. And then also as a loan officer, we get to talk to people about their finances. And when you do so, what you realize is that most people don't know enough about personal finance, just simple budgeting tactics or investment tips, whether it's 529 college plans or life insurance or 401k versus IRA. And then I started thinking about my own life experiences and things that I was curious about, but maybe we just didn't talk about in our household. And it wasn't that my parents didn't follow a budget. They just didn't talk about the budget they followed. Or it wasn't that they weren't investing into a 401k. We just didn't talk about it.
Okay.
And then I find in my group of friends and my circle, it's not talked about openly. And I'm like, why? Why would we not talk about this stuff openly? Or if it is talked about, it's talked about in such geeky terminology and boring delivery. How do we change it? So how do we take everything from the desire to put together content that's fun, right? It's a way for me to scratch my creative itch.
For sure.
But talk about things that just weren't taught in high school but should have been. Give the loan officers who I was already coaching or mentoring some content that they can source. And they can source at will because now it's evergreen, right? Evergreen means we recorded it and it's now hosted on a platform, whether that platform is iTunes, Spotify, or YouTube. And look, not every episode is going to be for a loan officer. And not every episode is going to be for a teacher or a parent. But we're going to do enough episodes. We're going to keep the content to where it's entertaining or entertaining-ish. It's insightful. It motivates. It educates. And people just want to tune in. And it's a way for me and really us to give back.
Nice.
Right? We're not selling anything on here. I don't hide from the fact that I work at Waterstone Mortgage, but also don't hide from the fact that there's other great mortgage companies out there and other great loan officers who don't work for Waterstone Mortgage. We have guests on. And look, if you're going to be a guest, please pimp yourself out. Promote your product and your service. Right? That's my way of saying thank you to you for spending your time with us and your knowledge with us. But I don't want to sell ads. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, that's great.
That is kind of back in January, February when you were onboarding and I had this idea. And here's what I also knew. I don't know how to podcast, but I want to do it.
And that's that perfect segue into my next question. Now that you've launched this, what has been your expectations versus reality? Kind of you're coming into this cold. You're like, hey, I want a podcast. We kind of worked together. We kind of figured it out. But kind of going into it now that we're almost 7 months, 8 months into it, what did you think kind of entering it, your expectations, and now that we've kind of launched and we have a couple episodes under our belt, what's the reality been like?
So I came in with no expectations.
Okay.
And that's most things I do in life, I try to calculate it. And I'm an optimistic person by nature, but I try to always factor risk into my optimism. So I knew coming into it, I felt confident. Worst case, if this totally bombs, I will at least achieve 2 objectives. Which, if you remember early on when I answered your first question, I wanted to create content that was evergreen or long-lasting, that if I got off the phone with a potential home buyer or potential homeowner who wanted to refinance, and whatever topic it was that we were discussing, they wanted more information, I knew I could now click, hey, you should go check out episode 37 because I did a podcast where we talked about buying an investment property. And maybe that client called in inquiring about purchasing their first investment property. Or if you're one of the loan officers that we employ, which Waterstone employs almost 300, and the region that I help operate, we employ close to 50, and we're constantly hiring 5 to 10 loan originators a year. Some are new to the business, like brand new, and some are seasoned professionals. But I wanted to have content that, again, I could push them on and say, hey, look, I know on this meeting we mentioned, or on this call we mentioned theme days. But if you really want to explore what theme days are and how to schedule your week based on theme days, go check out episode 2.
Yeah.
So I knew going into it, that was my worst case. Now, my best case, like, I'm not going to hide from this. How awesome would it be if we had an audience of 10,000 or 25,000 or 100,000? How awesome would it be if other people invited us into their world to teach them either how to podcast or to maybe talk about some of the subjects that we talk about, but live and in person, right? That would be fun. That would be another way of giving back. But that's kind of like that BHAG, that big, hairy, audacious goal.
Yeah.
And it's not even a goal. It's just one of those, you never know where it may take you. I mean, when you read the story about Adidas or Adidas, if you're German.
Adidas, correct.
Yeah, if you're German.
Yeah.
Those two brothers who started it, they never dreamt that the company would have the type of success that it did. I don't think Nike ever dreamt. Now, Amazon did. Amazon dreamt. Jeff Bezos dreamt. He had a mission. I wouldn't put us, the Loan Officer Podcast, in the Bezos category.
Just yet?
Yeah, we're in the Adidas.
Yeah.
We're in the Adidas category. Yes, I would love to see Run DMC rocking our stuff, right?
Yeah.
I mean, that would be really cool.
Yeah.
But, or in today's day and age, it wouldn't be Run DMC, but it would be
Some mumble rapper, but anyway.
Some mumble rapper, yes. But yeah, so maybe that answered your question. I think your other part of it would have been
like the reality. Now that you've launched it, I would say even this, like, so you kind of forged a new path. You don't know anything. You didn't know anything about podcasting. You kind of had maybe some experience in radio. What can you provide for our listeners that you've learned, like a takeaway? So like, hey, you've launched this podcast. I didn't really know what I was doing, but I threw myself into it. And now 60 episodes later and X amount of comments and kind of promotions later. What can you pass along to the listeners and viewers that, like, hey, like, I did this podcast. I didn't know what I was doing, but since I did it, X, Y, Z has happened.
Well, we can talk technically,
Yeah.
right? Where you can talk about how our first audio board sucked.
Yeah.
And I don't know what episode it was, like episode 15 or 20, where you can hear a distinct difference between, a $90 audio versus like a $350.
Correct.
But that's more of an equipment standpoint, right? You and I learned that cameras get hot.
Yes.
And
you can't record forever.
Yeah, you can't record forever. So we definitely have some early episodes where it's dark for a reason.
Yeah.
Because the camera shut off. It got too hot.
Yeah.
But no, it's like most things that you do in life. Most things, it's a marathon, right? You read the book Atomic Habits by James Clear, and if someone is working out and expecting the next day to look or feel, let's say, look different, that's a losing proposition. If you do a show and expect 1,000 people to like it or 100 people to like it or 10 people to tune in, it doesn't work that way. You need to gain momentum. You need to stick with it. And you need to, every time you do it, get 1% better. Right? If we get 1% better every episode, then episode 100 is going to be 2 to 3 times better than episode 1. But you just got to do it. I learned that for this particular episode, this particular podcast or this particular genre, LinkedIn. Who would have thought that LinkedIn is a phenomenal vehicle to spread its message?
Yeah.
We were doing IG.
Yep.
We're on Facebook.
Yep.
But we're getting great traction. I didn't figure out LinkedIn until about 30 days ago. It was Jim Boggess. When Jim Boggess came in as a guest, that Jim started talking just crazily about LinkedIn. I'm like, I have a LinkedIn account. But, so, I learned that a little bit. I mean, that those are some of the, I found the benefit of having guests. There's a lot of benefits. If you're trying to grow your audience,
Yes.
having a guest on, then that guest has assets. You call them assets, right?
Yeah.
But now the guest is going to be more willing to promote your show because they are on it. They're proud of it. You gave them maybe some clips that they can share. I've also learned that way more people tune in than actually like or subscribe.
That's the thing. Everybody wants the sexy, I want likes, I want subscribes, but a lot of people are ghosts on social media. They have an account, they might post things about themselves, but a lot of people aren't engaging. they're looking at your content. They might follow your page, but they might not necessarily like it. And that's important to know.
More than a dozen times just in the past 90 days, someone has reached out to me, whether it's via text, whether it's via like today.
Yeah.
I got a text today. And I kind of knew the person tuned in early on, but he basically said, I listened to every episode.
Yeah.
Would have never known it because there's no likes, there's no comments.
And
so I think that was part of you can get dejected when you put yourself out there and you're expecting some kind of like immediate gratification. And you have to pull yourself back a little bit and understand it's a process. This is a marathon. This is not a sprint. Mm-hmm. There will be times in marathons that you sprint and you run faster and times that you slow down. Mm-hmm. But I think that was definitely something that I've learned going into the Loan Officer podcast and the creation.
No, that's awesome. So you mentioned you've had some people kind of reach out to you on various platforms, whether it be texting you, calling you, and passing water cooler conversations. But up to this point, what would you say is the biggest pleasant surprise that you've had since you've done the podcast?
Ooh, a pleasant surprise.
Mm-hmm.
So it's difficult to surprise me in general.
Okay.
I mean, I am, there's a running joke within my group of friends. I'm the sure, why not guy. Okay. You ask me to do something, my answer is going to be sure, why not?
Okay.
Right, there is very little I'm not willing to try as long as it's safe and no one gets hurt. Mm-hmm. And by safe, I mean safe to you. I don't care that much about my own safety. So the surprising, like in a humble way, I'm surprised when strangers reach out.
Okay.
Right, when I had a young lady, this was like 2 months ago, reach out to me. She was living I think she still lives in Virginia, but she lives in Virginia, and she had just obtained her NMLS, her National Mortgage Licensing number. Mm-hmm. She passed her state exam. She has no experience. Somehow, some way, she found our show, and she said thank you. And it was rewarding. It was gratifying, a little bit shocking because that was part of the BHAG. Part of the BHAG is that people who don't know will actually find the content, but then more importantly, like what we're doing, appreciate what we're doing, find it helpful, find it beneficial. Mm-hmm. So, and I've had that now happen darn near 10, 15 times where there's a young guy in Jacksonville. He just got promoted from loan officer assistant to loan officer. And he reached out to me. There was a professional in Atlanta who reached out, and she actually reached out to comment and say, thank you for doing a particular show that we had a guest on. And in fact, the guest was Toby Moyle, and Toby stayed on and did actually 2 shows with us, if you remember. And one of the shows, I wanted to dig deep, what is it like to cut through the clutter in a male-dominated profession such as mortgage banking, something Toby did very successfully. Mm-hmm. And this professional was younger in her career, female, and it was a thank you. It was that was what I had to hear. That was what I needed. I have no idea who she is. I've never met her before. I don't know what she's going through in life. But you and I, with Toby's help, produced content that made one person's week better. I'm like, how cool is that?
Yeah.
How cool is that?
Yeah.
And my wife actually listens.
So it went from my husband's side project to he really cares about this to oh, wow, you're serious.
It went from, oh my God, what is he going to do? What is he going to say? To, I think she genuinely listens. And look, I'm a lot to handle, and she lives with me and loves me, and she's been with me for going on 25. It'll be 25 years this month that we had our first date.
Damn.
We've been married for 17 years. So I get that. I don't know if I hang out with someone all the time that I want to listen to them.
Yeah.
Right? My 4 or 5 closest friends don't necessarily tune in. Some none at all.
Yeah.
Some sporadically, and some just to give me shit.
Yeah.
But when my wife is listening and giving me feedback, and it's positive, some's corrective.
Yeah.
But I'm like, maybe we're doing something right. If someone who has to deal with me
24/7
still wants to tune in, I'm like, yeah, it's pretty cool.
Okay. That's good. So my next question for you, obviously coming into this, everyone has doubts, whether it be, I don't know if I can do this, nobody's listening, how do I look on camera, my voice sounds weird, but now you've kind of made it to this point. What do you have to say about people that might be trying to do a new venture in life, whether it be a podcast, whether it be 75 Hard, which you've talked about before, whether it be trying a new venture, and they're somewhat skeptical, they're timid, they don't want to get into it. From this experience, what kind of insight can you provide?
Just do it. I mean, Nike coined that phrase, but do it. I mean, that's how you do anything in life. I mean, I struggle with this one. I struggle mightily because I don't understand certain apprehensions and certain anxieties.
What do you mean by that?
When I played football, I was undersized, and I was in football. It's a physical sport. I was a really hard hitter. Like I hit the other person really hard. And it was because I was scared. Because when I get scared, I go harder. When I get scared, I go faster. So there's certain things I think that I take for granted that I don't know what it's like to be scared and to go slower. I don't know what it's like to be scared and to be passive. Because my natural reaction is if I'm scared, I run towards it. I'm scared of heights. So what do I do? I go and jump out of an airplane. It's a little bit of it is a thrill. It's also a kind of an FU to the fear.
Okay.
But what I have found in general, if you just do it and you stick to it, even if you fall off, pick yourself back up and keep doing it. And a big realization for me early on in life was figuring out that I'm extraordinary and I'm not extraordinary. Because I grew up wanting to be extraordinary. I want to be the best. I want to be looked at as the best. Well, I've learned, and some therapies helped with this, but I've learned that that is a game that you will never, ever be able to win because it'll never be good enough. There will always be someone funnier, better looking, taller, fitter, more athletic, smarter, more driven. So that was a bad way to be. But what I have learned is if I can just focus on being the best to me, and if I can be okay with not being important, that's where I was going with the extraordinary. Like once I realized I was extraordinary and I was like most people, then I realized I'm not important. Like think about it. I am one of 350 million people that live in just one country. Hey, I am one of, I would guess, 3.7 billion people that live on planet Earth, but that's today.
Yeah.
Right? There were 100 people. There was
a lot of people.
2 billion people that lived 100 years ago. There's going to be 5 billion that live 100 years from now. And it's not all about you. So the minute it's not all about you, you can make it all about you, if that makes any sense. Right? Meaning no one's looking at you. No one's pointing fingers. No one's laughing. So just be you. And I think that's what's helped me in general. Like whether it's this podcast, yes, I don't like listening to myself. I don't. I've gotten used to it, right? That's something that when you do enough public speaking or presenting, you have to go back and listen. You have to count your ums, your knows, all of your various pauses like I just did. But I still don't like how I sound. Most days I would prefer I looked a little bit better or looked different or less pale or less dry skin or more hair. I mean, like... Yeah. It's almost like get over it because no one else is on it.
Yeah.
Get over yourself because you're not that important so that you can make yourself important. It's totally contradictory. But I mean, those are things I learned. And you mentioned 75 Hard. 75 Hard's really cool because it teaches you the 3 words, yes, you can, at anything in life. Yes, you can read every night for 75 days. Yes, you can drink a gallon of water for 75 days. Yes, you can work out twice a day. Yes, you can follow a healthy diet. Yes, you can not drink soda, not drink alcohol. It doesn't say anywhere in there that it is 75 fun, 75 easy. It's 75 hard, but the purpose, and by the way, the purpose is not to lose weight.
Can you say that again? Because every time I think
the purpose of 75 hard is not to lose weight. The purpose is to teach yourself, yes, you can in life. Now, most people are overweight. Let's use the F word. They're fat. I thought I was in shape. I realized the first time I did 75 hard, I was fat. Why? Because I lost 30 pounds. I lost 30 pounds. It wasn't a weight loss challenge. I'm on day, what's today, the 10th? I'm on day 41 of 75 hard. I'm really not down any weight. Like maybe if I go on a long run, I can weigh in like super light. But I promise you, after I have breakfast, lunch, and dinner, all that quote unquote weight loss is down, because I'm not losing weight, not because I'm not doing 75 hard right. I don't have any weight to lose. I'm maintaining my weight, and I will lose some weight. I'll probably end up losing 7 or 8 pounds, but not 30 or not 40. So, but 75 hard and challenges like that just teach you, yes, you can. And even when you fall off, get back on.
Nice. One of the things that you talk about a lot, Dio, is swipe and adapt. And obviously one of the mantras of this podcast is everything you should have learned in high school but didn't. What are some of the things that you've learned by doing this podcast that you didn't know or learn prior to doing the podcast from all the books and education that you've had?
Ooh, that's a tough one.
I know.
You're like tricking me up. You're supposed to give me softballs.
I know. That was good. But I really want, because this is, people get to know you for this episode. A lot of times you're interviewing other people. You have guests, you get to know the other guests, but very few and far between people get to dive into the mind of Dio. So that's why I really want to explore.
Like you don't want to talk about like fantasy football or fishing or.
I want people to get to know you, to let you know that the stuff you preach isn't, you're not just full of shit. You actually practice what you preach, shall I say.
Well, no, I do practice what I preach, but almost all, you mentioned the term swipe and adapt. That's all I do. Like, look, I am above average intelligence, but I'm not like wickedly smart. So I can't come up with these things on my own. What I am is naturally inquisitive. So for the past 20 plus years, I have asked questions of experts, or I read articles like crazy. I was never a big book reader until last September. And even now, I read 10 pages a night most nights. Like during 75 hard, it's every night.
Yeah.
But come October 15th, when I'm through my second time of doing the challenge, there's going to be nights that I don't read. So I was never a big reader per se when it comes to books, but I do read articles. I mean, earlier in my life, it was the newspaper every single day, starting when I was probably 13 years old.
Oh, okay.
Today, I read on average 7 to 12 industry-related articles. Industry related could be personal finance, it could be mortgage related, or it could be real estate related. But industry related articles that some I skim, some I open and read a couple paragraphs and I realize that's fluff and delete it. But I at least open somewhere between 7 to 15 articles a day and I read it. Then I come on the show and I regurgitate it. I swipe it and adapt it. What I try to do is put it in words that make sense to me, understanding that if I truly am ordinary, then if it makes sense to me, it'll make sense to others. So maybe there's a unique skill I've developed of reading technical writing or boring writing and put it into commentary that is a little bit entertaining, or it's more of everyday.
It's more digestible.
Vernacular. Yeah, it's more digestible.
Okay.
But like if you're talking about like the guests we've had on, whether it was Kyle Scholl or Mike Williams, I learned actually a lot listening to Mike Williams. Mike Williams was a ex-top car sales guy. Right. And Mike actually taught me that buying a car is like obtaining a mortgage where there's no such thing as a one size fits all. Some people, it makes sense to lease. Some people, it actually makes sense to buy brand new. And some people, it makes sense to buy pre-owned. And going into that episode, I was nothing but a pre-owned guy. Dave Ramsey teaches it. I'm going to follow it. You buy a car that's certified pre-owned with 25,000 or less miles on it, blah, 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 blah.
Yeah.
Now, I still, at 41 going on 42 years of age, have never owned a new vehicle. But Mike Williams turned me on to the thought that maybe if I sat down and listened, a car professional could show me where that made more sense for me financially. So those are like small things that I think I've learned.
Yeah.
But a lot of what I preach or teach or coach, it's just because I have had 6 times 6 lunches with financial advisors where we sit there and I ask them questions. And when I don't understand something, I don't let them keep going. I slow them down and I make them drill deeper. When I say 6 by 6, I can think of 6 financial advisors I'm friends with and we meet probably once or twice a year for lunch. We get caught up on kids and families, but also we talk shop and talk business. And then I take what I've learned from them and I bring it to the show. So I don't know how much I've learned from the show. I learned I don't shut up, but I already knew that. I learned that it's very difficult to do a 20 to 25 minute episode.
Oh my God.
Next to impossible.
Almost. Our last one was our closest 21 minutes.
Yeah, but I think we've done only one or two other that was under 25.
Correct.
So I do know this, if anyone's looking to do a podcast or come on the show, which by the way, we're always looking for guests. We are always looking for guests. Now it is up to Coleman and I to figure out if what you want to talk about is going to be relevant to our audience. So we don't take just any guests, but we definitely are looking for guests. Where's I going with that? No, when guests come on and they're worried, I'm like, look, it is so easy to fill a half an hour. It is like way too easy. In fact, we have to find ways to cut it down to a half an hour. But,
Nice.
well, I learned that too.
Okay. So let's round it off with this, Dio. You had a goal. You seemed a very goal-driven kind of guy. We launched the podcast. We're 7 months in. What are your goals for the future? Where do you see this kind of next year, 3 years, 5 years? And let's just say there's no lid on it. Where would you like to see this 10 years from now if, like, the sky's the limit?
Joe Rogan.
Okay.
Why not? Why not? Why can't two kids from Central Florida come together and put together a show that is entertaining enough, insightful enough, and the guests that come on are quality enough that people want to tune in and listen and learn? Like, not every episode is going to be for everybody, right? We don't need that nor want that. But if we could create content that people wanted to tune into, how awesome would that be? Now, I'm not doing it for the Joe Rogan money. You're not doing it for, maybe you are. And look, that ain't gonna happen, right? Like I gave that answer. That ain't gonna happen. That was like, I once interviewed this kid who came in and he told me how he was going to be a millionaire in the next 10 years by making $100,000 a year.
Okay.
And I looked at him. I started running the numbers, and he was going to retire.
Okay.
I'm like, what's your cost of living? I go, because if you're making $100,000 a year, you're probably going to net about $6,000 a month after taxes. And are you going to save the full $6,000 a month? Because if you save $6,000 a month at $72,000 a year over 10 years compounded, yeah, you could probably get there. But I'm just curious what your cost of living is.
Oh no, I don't. There is no cost.
Well, okay, well, look, if he didn't have a cost of living, maybe he could hit his goal. But what I realized, his cost of living was about $4,000 to $5,000 a month.
Whoa.
So best case, if he made $100,000 a year, he was going to make $2,200, and investing $2,200 a month for 120 months, at most good rates of return, you're not going to get to $1 million. Nor with $1 million, I don't think someone could retire at age 40 and live the type of life they wanted to. So that to me is an unrealistic, not well thought out goal.
Yep.
By the way, guys, we talk about stuff like this in the podcast. I apologize. I went down that rabbit hole and wasted 90 seconds of your life. But when I say Rogan, that's obviously a not realistic goal. So like, what does it look like? I think right now it looks like, how do we get 1,000 subscribers? How do we turn 1,000 into 10,000? How do we turn 10,000 into 25,000? How do we get it where people are reaching out to us because they realize that we are those guys that got a guy or they got a girl? And all we're doing is quarterbacking them, right? If they need a loan officer, guess what? I know 25 to 50 awesome loan officers. You need a realtor? Got one. You need a financial advisor? Got one. You need a home builder? Got one. You have legal issues? I mean, it's like, I would love that. I would love to be that Clark Howard for this generation. That Dave Ramsey for this generation. But let's throw in a little bit of Jocko. Let's throw in a little bit of Joe Rogan. And let's create content that people want to consume, and let's take the momentum that the guys and gals before us built, and let's put our own spin on it. Let's put our own flavor on it. Right? you and I talk about rap music, right? We talk about 90s rap, 80s rap versus mumble rap today. And where was that sweet spot? Like, there's always an evolution in everything that's being done. I see us 2 years from now. So September, October, let's just go ahead and throw it out there. Let's go ahead and pick a date.
Okay.
June 15th of 2022.
June 15th. Got it.
June 15th of 2022 is coronavirus is behind us.
Yes.
We have multiple vaccines.
Yes.
And the conferences and trade shows are in full swing.
Back to normal.
Yep. And I see us being a mainstay at a large mortgage conference, like mainstay, like main stage, like like a staple, like we might not be going on last, but we're also not going on first, right? We have a booth, or maybe we have a dinner or a happy hour where people follow us and they just want to come and participate in what we're doing. Right? I think that would be kind of where I can see things going.
Okay.
But at the same time, our audience not just being mortgage professionals, and because of that, I haven't quite figured out, and I think we're going to let nature take its course. But how could we get ourselves more involved in the community? How could we work with people transitioning? It could be from homelessness to careers, where we're working with people on how to dress for success, how to interview properly. How do we become more involved in the universities local to us, to where we can mentor some of these future business men and women? I think that would be something that I would love to see us as a show becoming more involved in. But I think it starts with growing the audience. But we can't grow the audience if A, our content sucks, and B, people don't tell other people about it. So it's on us to make sure the content doesn't suck, but it's on you all watching and listening. Please pimp us out. Share it, like it, comment, subscribe.
All right, nice. So these last two things, and we'll end with this. Second to last thing. How do you overcome obstacles? Like, there's a lot of people who do podcasts. There's a lot of people who do podcasts in kind of the financial mortgage industry realm. How did you kind of like cut through that and not kind of let that distract you and say, all right, I'm going to do this anyway. I know there's kind of people talking about what I'm talking about, but how do you let that not distract you and kind of keep the blinders on and stay focused?
I don't focus on other people. I can't control other people. One of the coolest takeaways I had from reading The Subtle Art of Not Giving an F was talking about walking into a party with your sole intention to be the funniest, most liked person in the room. So you're focusing on what other people think, what other people react to. You can't control what other people think, and you can't control what other people react to. Us doing our show, why should I care about what anyone else is doing? I mean, I don't have enough F's to give. So the F's I do have to give, it's to you, it's to this show, and it's to the audience that we're trying to build. So I don't let that distract. And lack of humbleness here, they're not that good. They're boring. Like, I listened to one of the most recommended podcasts, and I couldn't even make it into work. There was not enough coffee or Adderall in the day to get me through that podcast. And it was choppy. And I'm like, that's just not who I want to be. It's not who I am, but it's just not entertaining. So I try, with your help, to put together stuff that I think you and me find entertaining. And if we find it entertaining and we're two ordinary dudes, then maybe other people like us would find it would not find ordinary. They would find it entertaining. You know, so I can't focus on what others are doing. I can only focus on what I'm doing.
Nice.
And what you're doing. And we focus on that.
That's well said. All right, so I'm going to end it with this. D.O., if I had to say, what's one thing that you would like the listeners and the viewers of this podcast to know about you that they might not already know? They know you're a father, you're a husband, you're a mortgage professional, you love outdoor things, you love horses, you love to travel. But let's say there's one thing after all these episodes that people don't yet know about you. What would you say it had to be?
that my two favorite artists of all time could not be more different on the spectrum or pendulum.
Okay.
If you ever ask me, hey, Dio, you're going to be stuck on an island, a la Tom Cruise. No, I'm Tom Cruise. Tom Hanks. Jesus Christ.
That's like, what movie is that?
It's Tom Hanks, and Spalding is his friend.
Yeah.
Castaway.
Yeah.
All right. I'm Tom Hanks on Castaway, but except for I actually have a radio.
Okay.
And I only have two people to listen to.
Who are those two people?
Too Short and Hank Williams Jr.
No way.
Yeah. I think that sums me up. Like, I'm out there. I talk too much. I'm a little bit wild and crazy. I'm working on not being as so. I sometimes can be a lot to handle. I'm extremely caring. I'm very optimistic. I love to love. I love to invest in people. Now, sometimes people aren't looking to be invested in. That's a positive trait and a flaw, because I may be known to give unsolicited advice, which is crazy because I hate with a capital H receiving
Really?
unsolicited advice.
Go figure.
Yet I find myself giving it, so I try to not.
Okay.
I try to ask more questions versus answer questions, and I try, but I'm not good at talking less. Right? I think those are some things, and I'm always looking to improve. I really am. I'm always looking at what can I do better, how can I become better, and sometimes I need to slow down. Like sometimes I just need to slow down and enjoy the moment, because I find myself getting caught up in what's next. Oh, that was great, but that was fantastic, but let's do this now. And it's like, well, can't we just, like in business, I've learned, and my business partner, David Holbrook, has done a fantastic job of teaching me this. I would jeopardize the success of the business in certain instances if it was left up to me. Thank God it's not. That's why business partners are great. I would jeopardize the success of the business because I wanted to go do something else because I was getting bored. But what it was I wasn't comfortable with being content. So I'm someone that some things I'm focusing on is enjoying the moment, being comfortable with being content, while also understanding that you continuously need to strive to become better. But better doesn't have to look different than what you've been doing. Better can just be 1% better, 2% better. That's some things about me that you don't know necessarily.
That's great. I mean,
I jumped out of an airplane. I was on a state championship baseball team in high school, although I was the bullpen catcher, so does it really count? My pants didn't even match the rest of the team. Luckily, I was a sophomore, so I was pulled up. I'm a youth sports coach, retired, right? I was Coach Owen for many years. I coached baseball and I coached football. Now I'm just a dad. I like to play baseball still as an adult. Like, those are things about me. Love music. If I could have a personal DJ walk around and have walk-up music play, now that may be tapping into some of my narcissistic tendencies. If I want to have walk-up music just to go to the bathroom,
that'd be amazing.
Or to walk into a restaurant and get out of the elevator.
Life goals.
I want my funeral to be this crazy raunchous party, like with DJ and alcohol and like just, twerkers.
You heard it here first.
Yeah, it's like, that's me. I don't know. I'm a fun guy. What can I say?
Hey, it's me, Dio. What do you want from me?
Yeah, and more importantly, like I really want to see this take off.
Okay.
I really do. I want people to like what we're doing because I like doing it, and I want to continue doing it. But I told you when you onboarded back in January, we got 2 years.
2 years, bro.
We got 2 years to figure this shit out.
We do.
Yeah, if not, you're back to the video game world.
Hey, you know what? Hopefully they'll have me. But hey, I think that's all the time we have for today. Listen, if you guys need to reach out, if you want to comment on the show, if you want to like the show, please feel free to reach out to Dio. Look at other episodes. He's given you his number, 407-645-6363. I can be found at dowen.waterstonemortgage.com. You can find me on Facebook, find me on YouTube, find me on Instagram at The Loan Officer Podcast. He's Dio, I'm JC, and we're out.
Deuces.
Peace.